Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about Ziz, Behemoth, and Leviathan. Now, some of you might be more familiar with the latter two, that being Behemoth and Leviathan, but have never actually heard or paid attention to Ziz. Now, they actually make up a trinity in Hebrew mythology. Um, Behemoth being the ruler of the land, Leviathan being the ruler of the sea, and Ziz being the ruler of the skies or the heavens. And these are monstrous, gigantic beings. These are entities. These are monsters, creatures, whichever word you find best, right? That are the largest and most powerful in each domain. So, what I want to talk about today are some of the spiritual applications, and if we're dealing with it from the point of demonology, what they could represent if we're dealing with demons, right? So, first, I want to share for my nerds that Ziz, Behemoth, and Leviathan is actually the source behind Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza from Pokemon, the ruler of the land, the ruler of the sea, and the ruler of the skies, right? So this even makes its way into pop culture. This is something we see in a lot of places. Now, as far as biblical references go, Leviathan, Behemoth, and Ziz are referenced a few times. Funny enough, the bulk of the references to Behemoth and Leviathan can be found in the book of Job. You have Job 40, which is focused more on Behemoth, and then you have Job 41, which is focused more so on Leviathan, and they're referenced throughout the Bible. I guess you could say there's a few more references in Psalms, but those are the two main segments of scripture that give you real detail on the appearance and the activities of them. And then there's Second Chronicles 20, which deals with Ziz. So I'm actually going to pause and read some of those verses for y'all. All right. So starting with verse 15, this is Job 40, verse 15. It says, "Behold, Behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold his strength in his loins and his power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze and his limbs bars of iron. He is the first of the works of God. Let him who made him bring near his sword. For the mountain yield food for him, where all the wild beasts play. Uh, Under the lotus plants he lies, in the shelter of the reeds and in the marsh. For his shade, the lotus trees cover him. The willows of the brook surround him. Behold, if the river is turbulent, he is not frightened. He is confident through Jordan rushes, though the Jordan rushes through his mouth. Can one take him by his eyes or pierce his nose with a snare? And then we go to 41, which deals a bit more with Leviathan. So, Job chapter 41, can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many pleas to you? Will he speak to you soft words? Will he make a covenant with you to take him for your servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird, or you put him on a leash for your girls? Will traders bargain over him? Will they divide him up among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hands on him. Remember the battle. You will not do it again. Right? And then we go down to verse 12, right? And it says, I will not keep silent concerning his limbs or his mighty strength or his goodly frame. Who can strip off his outer garment? Who would come near him with a bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? Around his teeth is terror. His back is made of rows of shields, shut up closely as with a seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. His sneezings flash forth light. His eyes are the eyelids of the dawn. Out of his mouth go flaming torches. Sparks of fire leap forth. Out of his nostrils comes forth smoke as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame comes forth from his mouth. In his neck abides strength, and terror dances before him. The folds of his flesh stick together, firmly cast on him and immovable. His heart is as hard as stone, hard as the lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. At the crashing, they are beside themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it does not avail, nor the spear, the dart, or the javelin. He counts iron as straws and bronze as rotten wood. The arrows cannot make him flee. For him, sling stones are turned to stubble. Clubs are counted as stubble. He laughs at the rattle of javelins. His underparts are like sharp post herds. He spreads himself like a threshing sledge on the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea a pot of ointment. Yikes. Behind him, he leaves a shining wake. One would think the deep to be white-haired. On earth, there is not like this, a creature without fear. He sees everything that is high. He is the king over all the sons of pride. Now, that is the verse about Behemoth, and then that was the verse about Leviathan. Now for one of the references to Ziz that actually made it into the Bible. And again, this is 2 Chronicles 20:16. It says, tomorrow, go down against them. Behold, they will come up by the ascent of Ziz. And again, Ziz is this mythological bird creature, the ruler of the skies, right? So let's deal with them in terms of archetypes, right? So we have Behemoth. Actually, I'll start with Leviathan because he's the one that you hear more people talk about. Let's start with Leviathan. So just as the end of that verse in Job mentioned that he is the king of all the sons of pride, right? This is why Leviathan is often equated as the spirit of pride, especially if you spend any time around a bunch of deliverance ministers. Anytime someone has pride, they'll say, oh, that's a Leviathan spirit. Because in the same way that it mentions that the scales of Leviathan are so close together that air cannot get to it, right? They use that, and it's not a wrong assumption. It's not a wrong presentation or usage of Leviathan, right? To say that they're so stubborn, they're so closed off that even the spirit cannot speak to them, right? It speaks of someone so stubborn, so arrogant, so stuck in their ways that even spirit can't speak to them. And that's one presentation. So that's dealing with the negative possible aspects of Leviathan. Can also be seen as an archetype of chaos or destruction. Power, freedom, right? Let's move into some more neutral categories. Freedom, power, strength. Again, there's dominion over the sea, over the deep. This is why I also see Leviathan as a archetype or a symbol of the underworld. The underworld deals with that which is below that you cannot see. And a lot of times in ancient cultures, the underworld as the land of the dead or under the earth was synonymous with the ocean or with the seas because you cannot see through that water. There's a world under there that cannot be perceived. And it's a beautiful parallel. So next we can go to Behemoth. Behemoth, again, is the ruler of the land. It's this massive beast that deals with strength and is very much associated with mountains and land, right? In the same way that Leviathan kind of deals with pride, you can say that Behemoth deals with gluttony or greed. Now, one of the manifestations of a spirit of Behemoth, if we're dealing in a demonology way, is monopolies. Someone that hoards a territory and dominates a field, right? Taking more than they need at the expense of other people not having what they need, right? So it deals with monopolies. It deals with what we're dealing with in the States, right? But it deals with that. That's one of the archetypes associated with Behemoth. So when you look at, and I'm not saying this to demonize major corporations, I'm just giving an example. So you look at major corporations, they're all over, they're completely dominating their field. That's a manifestation in this sense of Behemoth. They are dominating the land. They're all over the land. They're stretched far and wide, right? They have reach. So some of those major corporations, you think McDonald's, you think Walmart, places that are everywhere. Matter of fact, you can expect to be in different countries and still expect to see some of these things because they're dominant in the land. We're going to come back to that word dominant. So next, we have Ziz, which again represents the sky, but in the same way that Leviathan can represent the underworld, Ziz can also represent the heavens in general. And if we're dealing with a negative quality of Ziz, you can deal with wrath. You can also deal with theft in the sense that there's a lot of verses or stories about Ziz coming in and taking things unaware. So he could also be seen as the emissary of poverty, right? You have something and then all of a sudden it's gone. Major loss is a manifestation of Ziz if we're dealing with his negatives. Now, again, all of them deal with dominion. Now, there's actually a prophecy in Hebrew myth and Hebrew scriptures that says that in the age of the Messiah, when the Messiah is fully manifested and that reign has come to pass, the Messiah is ruling, that Ziz, Behemoth, and Leviathan will be killed and cooked and given to the righteous as a source of food. Now, some people take this literally. I do not. What I believe this represents is that the righteous will step into a space where they are again ruling all three realms and stepping into this triune dominion that will again have rulership over the sky and over the land and over the sea, rulership in the heavens, rulership in the earth, and rulership in the underworld. Rulership in the three realms or in the three worlds is a better picture because, again, in invoking that idea of you are what you eat, what you consume, you become. So by consuming that which has dominion over the air, over the sky, and over the land, and over the sea, of the heavens, and of the underworld, right? You actually take on that dominion itself. So it's prophesying a state in which when the Messiah is in rule, when we step into that Christ consciousness, we have dominion in all realms. You can even use it just to say there is not a place where we don't have dominion at that point, because the Most High in each dimension has been consumed by us. You get the point. So those are a few things to look at when dealing with Leviathan, Behemoth, and Ziz. Hopefully this was informative for you. If you are interested in me and any of the stuff I have going on, check out my website, caveofmystery.org. There you can find more of my teachings, my books, upcoming courses, and things like that. Join the Patreon. There's a ton of stuff on there if you have not already. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Later.